Welcome to Decoding Healthcare Research. I'm your host, Efrain Riveros, Dr. E.F. Rain. I am an associate professor of anesthesiology at the Medical College of Georgia in the United States. So today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Antonio Paoli. He's going to discuss one of his papers with us. This paper has to do with ketogenic diet in the context of muscle strength and body composition in the population of bodybuilders. Dr. Paoli is a professor of exercise and sports sciences at the Department of Biomedical Sciences, University of Padova, Italy, and he's also professor and chair of strength and training and sport nutrition at the University UCAM in Murcia, Spain. Welcome, Dr. Paoli.
Thank you for the invitation. Hello to everyone.
Thank you. So we have been discussing lately a ketogenic diet in the context of weight loss and also in the treatment of some neurodegenerative diseases. But it caught my attention that you used a low carbohydrate ketogenic diet in a context that is very specific, the context of bodybuilding. So I want to start asking a little bit more about ketogenic diet and then the specific nuances of bodybuilding and why you put together this study. So let's start with the ketogenic diet. Can you give us a brief overview about what ketogenic diet is and what is the main metabolic effect?
Yeah, so it's we have to start from the metabolic effects of ketogenic diet. I mean, we have to start from the very beginning. What is a ketogenic diet really? How can we define a ketogenic a nutrition plan or a diet? Well, we can define a ketogenic diet when you introduce less than 20-30 grams of carbohydrates per day. That is the correct definition. Some scientists define under 50 grams of carbohydrate, but mainly is a very strict reduction of carbohydrate intake during the day. 50 grams of carbohydrate mean 200 kilocalories from carbohydrates, so very low quantity. Instead, we don't have to do the mistake to think that ketogenic diet is an very high protein diet. It's not true. You have to increase your protein intake by from 0.8, 0.9 gram of protein per kilogram body weight up to, in a normal subject, I mean, 1.2, 1.3 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. I specified normal person who, for instance, they want to lose weight. In athletes, you have to increase further the amount of protein intake. But interestingly, I started my interest in ketogenic diet during my last life when I was a trainer and physician for bodybuilder. And 20-30 years ago, because I'm old, the common practice for bodybuilders to lose weight, to define themselves, to lose the last amount of fat before competition was in reality a ketogenic diet. They call meat and water this kind of diet at that time. And I started my personal experience on the field with bodybuilders 30 years ago. And then, from the serendipity of this research, And I continued with the ketogenic diet and started to make research. I entered university and started my main field of research became ketogenic diet. So I studied ketogenic diet for weight loss, for metabolic syndrome from different point of view, but mainly in combination with exercise. What happened when you are in ketosis? Okay, it's worth to mention that the first clue of the healing effect of ketogenic diet we can find in the gospel in Matthew 17, 14, 21, the healing of the epileptic boy. And in that episode in the gospel, Jesus said, "This kind goeth not out but prayer and fasting." The demon cannot go out the body, but only with prayer and fasting. Now we know that fasting induce the metabolic state called ketosis, the same of ketogenic diet. And we know from the 1920s, from the seminal paper published in the Mayo Clinic Bulletin, that the ketogenic diet is useful to reduce the frequency and the importance of the epileptic crisis. So there is a connection between, historical part and the clinical one. And because both fasting and ketogenic diet induce this metabolic state named ketosis. What we mean with the term ketosis? Ketosis is a metabolic state when you are deprived from carbohydrate. Your body has low carbohydrate level, low glycogen in the muscle and the liver, and in some way your body is forced to utilize your fat as fuel, because our body normally use both carbohydrate and fat. Instead, during ketogenic diet, during fasting, your body is forced to use a very complicated metabolic pathway. It is forced to use fat as fuel. And from fat, our body produce ketone bodies: beta hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone, produced by the liver. Then these ketone bodies goes into the bloodstream, and they are able to pass the blood-brain barrier, go into the brain, and so feed the brain, because brain, usually use only glucose as fuel. Instead, during ketosis, our brain became able to use ketones body instead of glucose. For this reason, we are able to stay in fasting condition for many days, because our brain use these byproducts, so I call it, but it's not byproducts, from fats that are the ketone bodies. And the other important thing is that once the scientific community thought that the ketone bodies are toxic byproducts of the metabolism, instead, in the last year, we discovered that mainly beta hydroxybutyrate, one of these very little molecules, ketone bodies, this beta hydroxybutyrate has many positive effects on health: anti-inflammatory effects, stimulation of growth neurons and synapses, etc., etc. So this is the picture of mainly of the ketosis. So I can go on and on talking about ketosis, but I think it's
No,
enough.
excellent, and you summarized it very nicely, and it's very clear. Now, in the context of bodybuilding, so I have friends who actually participate in competitions, and I have seen that they kind of change their dietary habits depending on the season. So for some part of the year they are preparing, but as the competition approaches, they completely change their habits. So what makes the bodybuilders special, and why is a ketogenic diet useful as they prepare for these competitions?
So obviously during the season, bodybuilders change diet, change training. Now there are many theories about also body recomposition, etc. But one of the approach, there is not only one approach, because like also I study muscle hypertrophy, and there is no one way to muscle hypertrophy. There's many stimuli for the muscle growth. But one of the strategies, also old strategy, is to increase muscle mass during the period very far from the competition, the bulk period they name, so to put muscle mass and also a little bit of fat. Then near the competition, decrease of they try to maintain muscle mass and decrease body fat to arrive to the competition, because bodybuilding is an aesthetic sport, so you have to, it's not related to strength or power, but only to aesthetic during the competition. So the bodybuilders have to arrive with a very low amount of body fat at the competition and maintain the muscle. One of the misunderstanding about ketogenic diet is some people think that during ketogenic diet you lose muscle mass. Instead, we and others demonstrated very well, if you perform a correct ketogenic diet, so you maintain a correct amount of fat, so amount of calorie, correct amount of protein in your diet, you are able to decrease, use mainly fat as fuel, so decrease your body fat and maintain the muscle. On the other side, for many biological reasons, it's very difficult to increase muscle mass during a ketogenic diet. And on this regard, there are only theory. Now we have started a study on people who perform resistance training before and after a bout of training, during normal diet or during ketogenic diet, and we take muscle biopsy to understand what happened in the muscle after a resistance training session, to understand what's happened to the molecular mechanism of muscle growth during a normal diet. And we know very well that from a literature, but during ketogenic diet. So we are trying to understand why this happened. But the bottom line is, if you are interested in bodybuilder, you can lose fat with a ketogenic diet, and you can maintain your muscle mass. You cannot increase your muscle mass during ketogenic diet, right? Because our body receives two different instruction. One instruction is attention. We are in a sort of scarcity. There is no food. You have to use your fat. So when there is no food in the environment, you cannot increase your muscle. And on the other side, you have the information. You have to build muscle with the weights and the resistance training. So in this condition, what's happened that you maintain your muscle mass and you decrease your fats.
That's very interesting. So the bodybuilder then focuses on maintaining the muscle mass that he or she gained during the prior season, if you will. And the good news is that the ketogenic diet spares the muscle. So it's
if you perform in the correct way, that means you have to maintain a correct amount of fat intake, and you have enough proteins, or a correct amount of protein in your diet. Fats are very important. Fats are very important in the diet during ketogenic diet. Otherwise, you eat your own muscle. If you
eat your own muscle. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent, perfect. So now moving on to this study in particular. I see that that you measure different variables, some of them related to the muscle and some others related to systemic markers, even of inflammation. So can you tell us a little bit about the protocol that you used for this study?
Yeah, we recruited some bodybuilders, 19 bodybuilders, divided in two groups, ketogenic diet and normal diet, and they performed 2 months of the diet, normal diet of ketogenic diet, and then we use expert bodybuilder, so they maintain the normal training load. We ask to not change the training, to maintain the training during this period. And we perform many measurements like hormones, blood lipids, body composition, strength, and also, for me, very important, inflammatory cytokines, so inflammation, and another interesting molecule that is BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a very interesting molecule because it's related to mood and to cognition.
Excellent. So what was the dietary protocol?
The dietary protocol was a ketogenic diet using obviously avoiding carbohydrates and only carbohydrate from green vegetables, for example, and because there are few carbohydrates in the vegetables, you have to choose the correct vegetables, and a good amount of protein. We if I remember correctly, it's about 2.5 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, and the percentage. I just take a look at to the paper because I don't remember all the paper. The amount of carbohydrates in ketogenic diet was about 68% of the energy from fat, 5% from carbohydrate, and 25% from protein.
Proteins, excellent. And what were the findings of the study, the most relevant ones?
The most relevant one was, as I told you before, our athletes were able to maintain the muscle mass. They decrease the fat mass only in ketogenic diet, and there is a slightly increase in lean body mass, in muscle mass, in the normal diet protocol. That means that bodybuilder, as I told you before, they lost weight and maintained the muscle mass. But for me, also from a physician point of view, as we are both physicians, so we are interested also in the health part. Our study demonstrated and confirmed that ketogenic diet is able to lower triglycerides and blood cholesterol, so blood lipids, and also importantly, decrease the inflammation markers. The cytokines we measure interleukin 6, TNF alpha, and interleukin 1 beta. That means a ketogenic diet is able, ketone bodies, and we know from literature, the ketone bodies are able to blunt the inflammation process, to decrease inflammation.
Yeah, and go ahead, please.
No, we demonstrated also in sedentary people. It's more evident in sedentary people, overweight and obese people, that ketone bodies are able to decrease inflammation.
And it's counterintuitive that a diet that is high in fats leads to a better lipid profile, right? That's something that is extremely, extremely important.
Yes, it's like counterintuitive because I increase the fats and decrease blood lipids, but it's in literature there are a lot of proof that the production of cholesterol is related to the endogenous production of cholesterol. Blood cholesterol is not so related with the diet cholesterol, but with their own production. And the production of cholesterol is regulated by insulin. So if you if you lower insulin, you lower the production, the endogenous production of the cholesterol, and this is a very nice meta-analysis of Bueno, published 10 years ago, but showing that most of the papers published demonstrate a reduction in blood cholesterol. The
Yeah,
important
that's
thing that
mhm.
you have to perform a correct ketogenic diet. So you
Yeah,
cannot
I think it's the critical part.
you cannot have like in normal diets, the free day in the week. So in your normal diet, I give you a nutritional plan. I said, okay, you can have a 1 day in the week free. But with a ketogenic diet, you cannot have a day free nor a meal free. You have to be very strict, because once you introduce, ice cream, or you eat a bunch of fruit, immediately you go out from the ketosis state, and so you block all your the metabolism. So it's very important. Ketogenic diet is difficult to follow, also because it's very strict. You cannot derange from the rules.
Yeah, that's true. And if people introduce a lot of fat and on top of that they introduce a load of carbohydrates, then you defeat the
Disaster.
purpose. Yeah, you defeat the purpose. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
disaster, because you increase insulin, you increase liposynthesis, you increase cholesterol production.
Absolutely, absolutely. What you mentioned the BDNF, the brain derived neurotrophic factor. What did you find, and what are the implications of your findings?
So we found that regarding BDNF, there is an increase in significant increase in BDNF values only in the bodybuilders group, more significantly more than in normal diet. And it's very important because BDNF, as I said before, is related to the hippocampus, and is related to the mood, for example, and is related also to improving cognitive performance, and is also related to neurogenesis. So it's very important. So it's very important molecule related to the health of the brain. So this also can explain why during ketogenic diet you have in the first days you can feel some strange feelings, some adverse effect like nausea or stipsis or fatigue, but then pass in this called keto adaptation in 5-6 days, and then you feel more energetic, you think more clear. There's anecdotal reports, but this could be related to the increase in BDNF production.
Okay, that's great. Another aspect that I want to discuss is the muscle mass was really not affected, the lean mass. What about the muscle strength? Because one of the concerns is performance when people are doing exercise and doing ketogenic at the same time.
Very, thank you for your question, because it's a very good point, and also very interesting, because we found there is no significant difference between the two groups in strength. So there is an increase because they training for 2 months in both groups, but without difference between groups. So ketogenic diet groups do not increase muscle mass, but they increase strength. Normal diet group, they increase strength, and but also increase muscle mass. This open a complex question, because we know that there is a direct relationship between muscle mass, muscle area, and strength, but there is no so direct correlation. So you can increase strength without increasing muscle mass or increasing just a little bit of muscle mass. And then you can also increase your muscle mass without increasing so much strength. So it's very variable. A colleague mine, Löneke, Professor Löneke, studied a lot this different relationship between cross-sectional area, muscle mass, and strength. But the final line is that during ketogenic diet, you are able to maintain muscle mass, but at the same time increase strength in the same manner that the normal diet.
Oh, that's very, very fascinating, because this is, as I said, is particularly important for those concerned with the performance. So it's actually good news that with the ketogenic diet you can achieve that. Do you think that the ketogenic diet is able to change the resting energy expenditure, or what is the effect in terms of energy expenditure?
This is a very, very good and difficult question, and very, critical question, because we are two schools. One said that there's no absolutely change in resting energy expenditure, and another said no. Instead, we measure difference in resting energy expenditure. So the experimental results are somewhat contradictory. What we found that there is no, in our study, no change in resting energy expenditure. There is instead a decrease of the respiratory exchange ratio, or respiratory quotient, that indicate that your metabolism shifts from carbohydrate to fat. But there are some data from different labs showing that in normal subject, in an ecological study, there is an increase, small, maybe not significant for the research, but small increase of resting energy expenditure. What I mean, from a statistical point of view, 50 or 90 kilocalories per day, maybe not statistical significant for the research, but if you multiply 90 or 100 kilocalories per day per 3 months, 100 days, they became a lot of kilocalories. That means you decrease your body fat.
Yeah, that's also fascinating. So I see a lot of positives for the ketogenic diet, but I think what you said is very important for our audience, is that adherence to the plan is of the utmost importance. So if you deviate, it's not only that the ketogenic diet is not going to work, but you are going to actually encounter some deleterious effects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that you cannot perform a ketogenic diet for your whole life, because it's a specific kind of diet that you have to perform, except from some pathologies like GLUT1 deficiency or some kind of cancer nowadays. But you have to perform these diets for 2 months, 3 months. Then you have that. The other important thing is that you have to return a Mediterranean diet. And the suggestion I want to give to the audience is pay attention about the transition from ketogenic diet to normal diet. So in my experience, this is anecdotal. It's my experience. I have no experimental data, but based on my clinical practice, you have to and usually I don't write this in the paper, because observation from a clinical point of view, you have to have this transition phase from ketogenic to a Mediterranean diet. And you need this transition with a low carbohydrate, not ketogenic diet. So if you perform 2 months of ketogenic diet, you have to perform at least 2 months, the same amount of time in a low carbohydrate diet before shifting to a normal carbohydrate amount Mediterranean diet.
Mediterranean diet. Yeah, that transition is.
Yeah, it's very important, the transition to, you know, to make your body again used to utilize carbohydrates in the correct way, because there is
I see.
a decrease of some enzymes normally, because if you're on ketogenic diet, the enzymes related to the glucose metabolism decrease, but it's perfectly normal because your body adapts to this nutrition regime, and then you have to rehabilitate your body to utilize glucose.
Excellent. That's an excellent piece of advice. So before we close, I want to ask you, based on this paper, can you summarize the main takeaway so that our audience have a big idea about what
Just
we discussed?
my few bullet points on this paper is in bodybuilder, correct ketogenic diet with a correct amount of fat, 70% of fat in the diet, and less than 5% of carbohydrate, and at least 2.5 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, because we discuss about body weight because we assume that bodybuilder has a low percentage of fat compared to a normal person. You will be able to maintain your muscle mass, increase strength, and lose body fat. At the same time, you can improve your blood lipids and decrease total body inflammation markers. And like, you know, bonus, you can have an increase in BDNF, so also increase in mood and concentration and focus.
That's excellent. So I want to close by saying thank you, Dr. Paoli. This was a very interesting discussion, and I appreciate the way you presented it. That is very easy to understand. And thank you again for being with us and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So for our audience, the link of the paper is going to be in the description of the video, as well as some other work of Dr. Paoli. Don't forget to leave us feedback, and see you in the next episode.